Hi, welcome to my channel Mostly Knitting. I'm Tash and it's Friday the 20th of April 2023. This is a podcast where I share mostly the knitting that I've been doing during the week and any other crafts if I've done anything else, and at the end just a little bit about my week. Right, so this week I have 3 new cast-ons, one of which is almost finished. It's actually finished as much as I want to get done on it because it's for a class, and then I've got some progress on 4 out of my 5 other WIPs. I have some new plans besides the ones I've already been thinking about doing. I've got one sort of extra new plan, and then at the end just a little bit about my week. Right, so I'll start with, I do like to start with my new cast-ons because that's what I get excited about. Not that the others are bad, but these are just, you know, obviously caught my eye. Now this is actually for a class that I'm going to be teaching at Skein Sisters. This is the one that is almost finished, or it's finished as much as I want to get done. So it is my First Beanie, so it's a pattern that was written specifically for the class. I didn't write it, someone at Skein Sisters wrote it, and it's been test knit, but I wanted to do my own knitting of the pattern before I taught the class on it. So it's knit on 6mm needles, and it's knit with a yarn called Fiddlesticks Grange 14. Although when I looked it up, this yarn's been discontinued, but they obviously have quite a bit of it at Skein Sisters. And so it's got quite a large gauge, and that's why it didn't take very long. I picked up the yarn on Monday when I went there with my friend Beck, and I don't know, I think I cast it on Tuesday, got to this point on Wednesday. It's probably only no more than a couple of hours of knitting. So the pattern itself is written so that you only need to use the 40cm 16-inch 6mm needle. Normally with a hat, when you get to the decreases, you end up having to switch to to DPNs or magic loop because it just gets too stretched out on the cable, and you usually get down to 8 stitches, and then you thread the yarn onto a tapestry needle and thread it through the stitches and pull it through. Because this is a class where it's sort of, like increasing someone's skills. They've learned how to knit, maybe they can knit and purl, and they're going to learn how to do the long tail cast on, ribbing, decreases, knitting with a circular needle. Sometimes for people, it's quite an investment if you're just learning to knit and you have to buy all these needles. So to have to buy a 40cm needle and a long circular or DPNs, the goal was to just use the one needle and just get it down to 24 stitches, and then use that to, which normally you would get further down. Normally you would magic loop, get down to 8, so you don't actually have too many stitches on the needles. This one, you just won't be able to get less than 24 stitches. Even I'm at 32 at the moment, and you can see that it's really quite stretched out. Your stitches are going to be a little bit larger than normal, just by sheer trying to have them all spread around on the cable. So but the idea is then if you can at least, you will still be able to close it up, but then there's a pom with the yarn that you use, that you've got left, you use a pom-pom, you make a pom-pom. So that way, even if it is a little bit stretched out at the top, you've got a pom-pom sitting on the top. So, ostensibly it's a perfectly wearable hat. So yeah, I'm really happy with how that's knit up. I'll see if I can try it on. Sorry, trying not to have the needles clank, but I'll try it on so you can see that, I don't know if you can see there, I've got one more row to go of decreases, and I thought I'll do that in the class itself, and I won't make the pom-pom in the class. I don't think we'll have time for that, but it's not that. There are that many YouTube videos on making a pom-pom. Wind it around. I made one when I was a kid. I don't think they're that hard. Anyway, so that's ready to go for the class. It's a bit of a worry that they don't have, they're out of stock of the short 6mm needles at the moment, so they can't sell any kits. So it'll be hard to teach a class in a week if there's no kits for people to buy for the class. Obviously if they already have a 6mm needle, but not that many people have a 6mm 40cm needle if they've just started knitting. It's kind of a bit of an unusual length and size, hence the kit. So the class may end up having to be cancelled, I think, if the kits don't come in time, because the class is in 9 days. So anyway, we'll wait and see. I have another class that day. I have a socks class on that day, so I'll definitely be teaching that. And that's ready to go, whether it's the 29th or another class booked in when when the needles come in. Right, so that's my first cast on, and I probably won't be showing that again because that's as far as I'm going to go for the class. The second cast on, actually I might show, the second you cast on is, I'll show them together. So this is my Musselburgh out of Madelinetosh Euro sock on a 3.25mm needle, and it's about 15 inches from the tip to the needles at the moment. When it gets to 17 inches, I'm going to block it and see if it grows. And then when it's at 19 inches, that's when I'll start the decreases. Decreases will take about 3 inches, that will get to 22 inches, and that's about how long I like them. So because that's nearly at the point of blocking, I wanted to get another one on the needles so that, and pass the increases. So that's going to be my vanilla one once this one's not available for vanilla anymore. So, you know, once I'm sort of blocking or doing decreases or whatever. So this is same size needles, 3.25mm needle. It's Madelinetosh Tosh Merino Light in the colorway Neon Peach. Super bright. I bought 2 skeins of this to make Tegnar, and then changed my mind and just thought, like, I just can't see myself wearing a whole sweater out of this color. It's just a little bit too much accent color for a hat or stripes or something, or a shawl maybe, but not a whole sweater out of this. It's just too much for me. So, but I do have 2 skeins of it, so I'm going to use half a skein for the Musselburgh, so this won't be the whole hat. I will probably use Antler for the other half. So yes, so that has now gotten past the increases. I've got it on off the magic loop and onto the 40cm needle, and it's just round and round and round for, you know, lots and lots of inches of straight stockinette. So that's the new work in progress and the old work in progress. And my last new cast on is a shawl pattern, Pebble Beach Shawlette, which was originally just a 1 skein shawl by Helen Stewart, and the size range she's expanded to a medium and a large to use either 1.5 or 2 skeins. I've made this 5 times before. 4 of them I've given away, and 1 of them I kept for myself. I knit it in black, and I would show it now, except I can't find it, which I'm really sad about because I wore it a lot and I really like the pattern. Now it's not very, there's not a lot of progress on it. Because I only just cast it on the other day, and it's a really good 1 skein shawl. Not that I often find with 1 skein fingering weight shawls, they're not really big enough for me to be wearable. But because this is stockinette and because there's a lot of eyelets, you get size without too much yarn. Whereas if it's garter's quite compressed, and obviously if there's no holes or anything, it's just going to take more yarn. So because it's mostly stockinette and holes, you're going to get a decent size out of 1 skein. So I think it's a great design. The first one that I made, I knitted exactly the pattern, and it used 92 grams. The way that Helen Stewart writes her patterns, I'll just cover up the details of it, but she writes them where each row is written out, stitch count at the end, and you tick it off as you do it. I start ticking it off here, but actually I prefer to tick it off right at the beginning because then I can see right next to the row itself. And she has this on the side, these percentages. So when you get to this, you know you've done 5%. So you know you're on track with your yarn. And with a shawl like this, if you just want to add a little bit of extra, like that first one was 92 grams and I had probably 15 grams left. So maybe I could have made it a little bit bigger if I just added a few extra rows. And the pattern really lends itself to that. You could just make one of these sections, you know, a couple of, you know, they're usually like four row blocks. You could just add an extra 4 or 8 rows, and using those percentages to make sure you're going to have enough yarn and not run out. So fabulous pattern, just a great designer, and I really like the way she designs the way she lays out the patterns. It's really readable, really easy to knit, and just like beautiful projects too. So yeah, so I'm excited about getting that one done. Oh, and I didn't mention the yarn. So this is from that D-stash purchase that I made that I was like, why did I buy all this yarn? What am I going to do with it? So I've already started socks for Mia out of one of the skeins, and then this is the Skein Daintree, and I think the colorway is Marsh, and it weighs 100 grams. It's a 4-ply yarn. I'm using 4mm needles. So I know I've got enough to do the pattern as written, maybe even a few extra rows. Yes, and I'm really happy that I found, and I do think that colour is really pretty. It's really beautiful and subtle. So yes, that's my last new cast on. I've already shown the other Musselburgh. I'm not going to show the sport weight socks with a gusset heel because I've actually made no progress on that. The next one that I will show that's a biggie is my Mauve Ingalls. And this is using, so I've actually bound off, I don't know if you can see, that's where I blocked at that point. And then I did the short rows for the back. You can sort of see it sort of has a bit of a line here. And then I did the ribbing. So I just wanted to block it to make sure I was happy with the length, which I am, and I knew I was ready to do the short rows. So I'll try it on, and I'll talk about the yarn in a sec. So this one, the differences that I did was I used a 3.25mm needle and the first row of ribbing when I cast it on to make the neckline a bit higher, and I'm really happy about that. I don't have a t-shirt on underneath, but when I've fully finished it, I'll try it with a t-shirt on underneath, and you can see that actually my t-shirts do sit. They don't creep up past the neckline, and I'll stand back a little bit. So it's a good length, right? So there's my, the ribbing starts right around my, the top of the jeans, and these are a bit low-waisted jeans. Sort of low to mid. That's my belly button there, so they're somewhere between low and mid. So it looks a little bit funny maybe at the back because I blocked it to this point, but that will settle down once I see how it's sort of got a little bit of a bubble there. That's just because of the blocked, not blocked, because it's totally fine on all my others. And yeah, I'm so happy the lace has opened up really nicely. I think that's really pretty. I've got a nice sort of pinkish t-shirt that I can wear underneath it. So it looks a bit funny here because I've got a white singlet and then that's my skin. So it will just look like normal, the same once I have a t-shirt that's higher. So I'll take that off. Now, I'll just show you closer. I'm in love with the colour. This is the Madelinetosh Pashmina Dust in the Dust Weaver colourway, and that's the Kremke Soul Wool Silky Mohair. So you can see there's quite a difference in, like, the same kind of colour family. Like this is sort of a paley pink, but this is obviously much darker and bright and, like, you know, more colour in it. So because of the difference in value there, you get a real heather where sometimes the mohair's showing through more and sometimes less. So I love it. I'm so happy with it. And then the contrast colour is, and so the Pashmina Sport, and this is obviously a lace weight. And this is Madelinetosh Air Light in the colourway Ruby Slippers, which is a 4-ply, but it's a pretty, feels kind of like quite plump 4-ply. It's also a single ply yarn. And then the mohair that I held with it is the Rowan Kidsilk Haze in the colourway Blackcurrant. So yes, just got the sleeves to do now, and they're pretty sizable sleeves, but I do my sleeves. So this was knit, so cast on 3.25mm first row, switched to a 3.5mm needle for the ribbing. Then the rest of this was all knit on a 4mm needle. I find when I magic loop, especially sleeves and socks, a bit tighter than I knit normally on like a larger circumference or just a fixed circular. And so I will do my sleeves on a 4.5mm needle. I find then the gauge and that sort of tension tends to match pretty closely if I just go one needle size up. So that's my standard, and I pretty much always do that, although I'm not doing it on Ranunculus, but I'll mention that in a sec. So that's my Mauve Ingalls by Caitlin Hunter. It's the fourth time that I'm knitting that pattern. So I am a bit of a repeat knitter. Let me see. The next work in progress is the Ilha dress. This is my second time doing this pattern. Oh, sorry about the clinking. This is my second time doing this pattern. I blocked it because I wanted to sort of get an idea about the neckline. So I blocked it it finished blocking. I blocked it about there, so I've done that much since blocking. I'm happy with how it's fitting, like it's not going to be too snug on my hips. I don't want dresses that are going to be skin tight on my hips. I want them to definitely have ease around my hips. So I'm just knitting it A-line, like every 11th row, I'm adding 2 stitches on each side. So, and I'm just adding it on either side of the cable panel. What do I think about this? I'm happy with the neckline now. I was a bit unsure, but I think with a light, you know, summer-ish kind of dress, I think the neckline is going to work just fine. What I might do, because I'm making some good progress, but I'm getting a bit in that, there's still a lot to go. I've got this much left and another whole skein, although I don't think I'll use all the yarn. But I've still got quite a bit to go, right? You can see I'm only at my sort of the belt loop, and you know, I want it close to my knees, right? So it's a lot of knitting still. So what I might do, just to give me a bit of oomph, I might just take a break from the dress part, the body, and just do the sleeves, because the sleeves are only like this long and a bit of ribbing, and it will it means when I try it on, or it means when I finish, all I have to do is just weave in the ends and block it, but it also means when I try it on, like it will just sort of feel finished everywhere else, and it won't take me long to do that. So that kind of might give me a bit more like a, yes, let's get this going. I want to wear it, especially before it gets too cold. So that's Ilha by Orlan Sush. I'm really happy for anyone to correct me on my pronunciation of anything, basically. I like to learn, and I'd prefer to say things properly, and I do like to give it a go. So, right, so that's Ilha. Let me see what else. The last one to show you is Ranunculus. So this is one that is being knit on 6mm needles, and because it is so open and airy, I'm not really having any, like I've decided to just do the sleeves on the 6mm and not bother going up to a 6.5, and that seems perfectly fine. The same as, I've only made, like you can see there's not a lot of progress on that sleeve. I think I've done about 16 rows, but I did actually count the number of rows on my first one. This is the second time knitting this pattern. On my green one, I think I did 72 rows, and it's very similar kind of yarn. So I was talking with Beck about, you know, what color, what sort of, excuse me, what color to wear underneath it. And I think I really like white with orange. I just think that stands out quite nicely. But I also would be fine to wear a nude tank top. I just don't own a nude tank top, so that's something maybe for me to look out, or I might look up online, or I don't even know where I get one of those. Like, I don't know, probably like just a big box store, or anyway, I'll have a look online. Just a basic tank like this white one that I'm wearing, but in a nude color, like skin color, whatever. So yeah, so happy with I'm happy with the length of that. I think it's really nice. And have I blocked it? Yes. Have I blocked it? I can't remember. I don't know if I have actually. Good question. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so yeah, working my way down the sleeves. I'll probably do sleeves similar to my green one, finishing about here. Right, so that's all my works in progress. Oh, gosh, I'm getting caught. I will go back to, I'll put the thing I was wearing first, my faux from the vault. That's what I forgot to mention in my episodes. I do a faux from the vault. I've been knitting for a long time. My son, I try to gauge it around, like I've been knitting since I was 8, but like, you know, I'd knit one thing and then nothing for a while. But then when my son Zach was 9 months old, which is about 15 years ago, nearly 15 years ago, is when I, you know, found Ravelry and started knitting. Maybe it was a little bit after that I found Ravelry, but I started really knitting again when he was about 9 months old, then found Ravelry, and just pretty much knit every day since then. So I'll put this top on. Maybe I should show you with it off first and then I'll try it on. So this top is Olive by Helga Isager. I think that's how you say that. And I think it's her yarn, Isager yarn. Like I've knit with the silk mohair from her yarn. So this pattern is Olive. It's quite an oversized pullover. I knit this in 2010, so this is 13 years old. Got a bit of fluff on it. I love this. This was probably one of the first things that I made that I was like, oh, I'm so proud of that. Like, I just think that's so pretty and so wearable. So the yarn is Volmise Pure in the colorway Moses, and I use 2 skeins. And then the contrast color is Koigu, you know, the painter's palette, something Merino. And yeah, I'm really, like, I fell in love with those colors and how they knit up in the garter. And I thought I would show you actually that what it looks like. Like, that is for me the perfect kind of use of variegated yarn, where you just sort of, for me, where you add just like a little bit of something to an otherwise plain knit. And I did want to show you this because I thought it would be interesting. This is, I had a lot of leftovers from that, and this is a sock that I knit out of the leftovers. And so you can sort of see that kind of striped up in a sock, and then it had a bit of flashing in the front. And I just don't think it's, like, it's fine, but I don't think it's nearly as pretty for me knit in stockinette. I wonder what it would be like in a large circumference or larger circumference. But anyway, that's what it looks like in a sock in just one color, and that's what it looks like in, I just think it sings against the navy. Anyway, so for this pattern, I actually did the way where you cast on, you actually cast on here and then do the band, and then you pick up the stitches and work down. And I don't know why, can't remember if the pattern's written like this. I think it is actually. I did the band in the round, which I think the pattern, I can't remember what the pattern said. Anyway, maybe I was trying to be clever and I did it in the round. And afterwards I realized that probably wasn't the best, because it's got these jogless stripes, and because of that, the start of the round moves, and honestly, and then of course you have to knit and purl because it's garter stitch. So if you're knitting garter stitch in the round, you have to knit around, purl around, knit around, purl around. So I probably, if I was to do it again, and I did try doing it again, which I'll get to in a second, I would knit this band flat and seam it. The other things that I did differently, the cast, so you actually bind off here, and the recommendation to get a good neckline, like not too big, not too tight, not too loose, was to knit every 4th and 5th stitches together when you do the bind off. So, and then that will bring it in. But I found that was way too tight. And then I experimented with a few different few different ratios, and I ended up knitting every 7th and 8th stitch together in the bind off, and that worked out at a circumference that I was happy, like a final neckline circumference I was happy with. The other things that I did differently, I did a sewn bind off, which was not so bad for the sleeves. Sewn bind off looks really nice. It just doesn't look like anything really, because there's no, when you do a bind off, you actually are knitting a row, whereas a sewn bind off, you're just passing the yarn through the stitches. So you finish here and there's no kind of extra row at the end, which I think actually looks quite nice, because if I did a bind off in the blue, it would kind of look like it was a bit thicker than the other stripes. Does that make sense? So with the sewn bind off, it all just looks the same thickness. So yeah, I really, of course, sewn bind off on the bottom when there's hundreds of stitches, that took forever. But I did really like the result, and it gave it like a perfectly fine amount of stretch, because I tried a regular bind off first and had to rip it out because it was too tight. So let me try, so you can probably see here on the inside what I was talking about with those jogless stripes. So I wanted to do it so you didn't see, because I was knitting in the round, you would have a jog. So I moved, so the start of round actually moves all the way down here. When I did it, I'll try and find the other one that I've done. I did start it a second time, and I used Volmizer Twin instead of the Pure. And I tried to do everything exactly the same with the same numbers, and it was enormous. So the Volmise Pure is much lighter than the Volmise Twin, substantially. And it just, I think I knit the whole thing. And with just, I went, oh yes, this is the same, Volmise, it's all fine. Knit. I didn't try it on. I didn't do anything. This is a lot of knitting. I did almost all of it. I think I did the whole body and one sleeve and went, oh, I might try it on. And then I was like, this is unwearable. So I will see if I can find, I ended up ripping it all out except for the band. So I'll have to have a look for the band and I'll show you that maybe next week. Or maybe I'll add a photo at the end if I can think about it when I'm doing the editing. Right, so I'll try it on. So I still love this knit. It's really nice and wearable because of the, the gauge and like the lightness. It is, it's fingering weight. And I think I used a 3.75mm needle for the body. All of my details are on Ravelry, including all of the, I'm pretty good about, that's one thing I do with Ravelry is I do put my notes down, mostly because I just like repeat knitting. But then, I made the mistake of repeat knitting this and assuming everything would be the same with a different yarn. And that's a bad assumption to make. So, yep, so it sits at a really nice length, like I can lift my arms and you don't see my belly button or anything. So, yep, it's nice and it's just a really lovely sleeves to about there. Lovely sweater. I think I only had about 12 grams of Volmise left. And they were heavy skeins as well, so I wouldn't have been able, because it is like, this is a lot of stockinette. It's a lot of positive ease, which to be honest, I haven't measured it. Maybe I'll measure it and I'll put in the bottom what the bust circumference is. And of course, there's no waist decreases at all, so it's straight down. But I love it. Yeah, I don't wear it actually. Sometimes I forget that I have different things in there. They sort of end up buried underneath other sweaters, especially because I've got everything in Ziploc bags and I don't have it all sort of out so I can see. Anyway, love this one, olive. What else? And I would make it again. If I could find another, I think it's actually a really nice use of Volmise Pure. I think I have a brown. Anyway. I'm not going to get into new plans now. Oh, but I will actually, new plans. That was the other thing I was going to mention. The things that I've got upcoming are, and I have mentioned this before, so hopefully it's not boring for you and I won't take too long with it, but I really love the pattern Sorrel and I've made 2 of them before, and I've got yarn for a pink one. That's the yarn that I've sort of put aside. I've got enough Mohair and I'm just cobbling together leftovers for the fingering weight, and the sort of the Mohair will tie it all together. So I've got the pink one, and then I've got a purple one planned, and I'm just getting leftovers together. So that's something I definitely want to make, and will make once I've finished Ilha and Ingalls, because I do like to have a sweater on the needles, but too many and it's a bit overwhelming. So, and I've got Ranunculus too, so I've got 3 on the needles. I've got to at least finish one of those before I start a sorrel. I also want to make the climb socks once I've finished the socks for my daughter Mia. And what were my other plans? If there was anything else, I'll put it in the bottom, anything else I was planning on making. But the new one that I was chatting with Beck about on Monday, because when we went to Skein Sisters, I tried on that exploration station. I'll put another picture. And I've forgotten how much I really liked it. And I think when I tried it on first, years ago, because the pattern is like 9 years old, so I'm very late to the game there, it had brioche in it. And at the time I hadn't knit any brioche. And so what I did was I fell in love with the Junction sweater by Andrea Mowry, which I have shown before in a faux from the vault. And so I knit a hat purely in brioche. I think Harlow, maybe it's her pattern. I knit Harlow, and then I knit Junction, and then I haven't knit any brioche since. But this would be a nice, there's only like a little bit of it in the design, so I do want to do it. And now that I've done brioche and I feel quite confident with it, I still am a bit iffy about fixing mistakes, but I've found a really good video on how to do that, and so I feel like confident enough to tackle it, but I'd still be quite careful when I get to the brioche section. That would be like pay attention knitting. I wouldn't be trying to watch TV or anything when I do that bit. So the yarn though, that's what I wanted to mention. The yarn that I'd like to do it with, the pattern, like the main one with Stephen in it, has neon peach in it. And as I said, I have 2 skeins of it and I'm only going to use half for the Musselburgh. So I'm going to use the neon peach, and I think I need something like 60 grams. So because I've got 2 skeins, I'll use 50 for this, and I'll use, you know, either what's left over from this, and if I need a bit more, I've got another skein. And I have Antler. I've got 2 skeins of Antler actually, so I've got plenty, because I'm going to use that for, what did I say I was using that for? Oh, for the Musselburgh. Forgotten already. So I've got plenty of that, so I'll use that with that. And oh, I'm excited about this. This was the Skein Classy that I bought in that D-stash, and that's like a navy. Oh, that's looking so pretty. So, and the 4th color, that's what I was a little bit iffy about. So I'll just grab, okay, put those like that, and I'll grab what I'm thinking about for the 4th color. Oh, okay, that didn't go so well. So I've got this yarn that my aunt gave me, and it's another single ply. I don't know what it is, but it's very pretty. So I could do that for my 4th color, or I have enough left from my first Ilha dress as the 4th color, or if I have enough left over from the second Ilha dress, that could be the 4th color. So I haven't fully decided. I would love to hear people's thoughts on that. So many people have knit this pattern, so yeah, so in the pattern, Stephen actually uses this one, I think he even uses Antler, something called Greco, and I would use that for the Greco, like the little, and then whatever the 4th color is, I don't know which one it is, A, B, C, or D, that's the one that I'm thinking about for the other one, so in that position. So that's quite different. I'm not sure about that one. And that one I may not have enough yarn left anyway. So yes, so that will be, I'm definitely going to make an exploration station. Everybody else has made one and it's so pretty. So yes, I'm looking forward to doing that. But I'll make sure I finish the Pebble Beach shawl before I start that. So I don't want to have 2 shawls on the needles. I'm fine having 3 jumpers, but you know, or 2 jumpers and a dress, but you know, and 2 Musselburghs, that's fine. But oh, look, maybe I don't want to start exploration. I'm not going to start exploration station until I've done a few more. I've got 8. No, I won't count the hat, the Fiddlesticks hat. I've got 7 active whips on the needles. That's enough. I'm not casting on any more until at least I've done a couple more. Ranunculus probably won't take too long. Anyway, I'm waffle. So I think that's it for the knitting content. I haven't done any sewing or crochet or needlework or anything else at all. So if you've been here just for the knitting and you want to sign off, I'll just say thanks so much for being here, and if you could like, and if you haven't already subscribed, that would be lovely, then you can see when new ones come in. If you're staying around for the chat, I'll just try and be quick about my week. So it's my school holidays are almost finished. I go back on Monday, so it's Friday now, I go back on Monday for a staff day. Last week when I recorded, I hadn't had my daughter's we had her 18th birthday on the Saturday. They are her flowers from my mum. I stole them from her room. I'll have to put them back before I pick her up from work at 4. Aren't they beautiful? Yeah, they're just gorgeous. Yes, so that was Saturday night. I think she went out clubbing afterwards and it took her about 3 days to recover. But we all had a lot of fun at dinner. They were playing, we were at this really fancy dinner, but everyone else was playing Risk on my husband's iPad, and they were teaching her boyfriend how to play, and I knit while they were all playing Risk. So yeah, and I was happy. I like watching, and it's too stressful for me, that game. So that was Saturday night. I had a bit of time off running, just with health issues, so I've started running again. I went on Tuesday, I went on Thursday, yesterday, and I'm going to go do parkrun tomorrow. I don't know if you guys, like around the world, have you heard of parkrun? It's 5Ks. I think it started in the UK somewhere. It's very social, it costs nothing. It's every Saturday at 8 a.m. wherever the location is. And there's quite a few here in Sydney, and there's one like 7 minutes away from me. That's my regular one. So I'll do a pretty terrible time tomorrow because I haven't run in like a month, but that's okay. It'll take time to build up. But the weather's cooling down now, and this is a good time for running. And a friend of mine, I ran into her at church on Sunday, and we run together, and we haven't run together in a while, and she wants to do the Sutherland to Surf, which is an 11k run, which is about 7 miles, I'd say, and which is fine, and that's in 3 months, so we thought we might do that one together. So I thought, I better get back running again. So yes, and it makes me feel good. It was hard Tuesday, having not run for a month. That was a bit full on, but yes, very happy. And I run my normal run's about 6Ks, which is about 4 miles, I don't know, something like that. Maybe not quite, 3.5 miles, something like that. What else? Oh, and on Monday, you already would have seen, I recorded with Beck, and that was so fun. We went to the yarn shop, we recorded together, so I won't go into that again. You can watch that episode. Oh, that will be a thing for me. I'll link to that episode up here if you haven't already seen it, but you probably have, maybe, I don't know. If you haven't, go watch that. It's really lovely. I really enjoyed doing that with Beck, and I think we, we've known each other for a long time, and we always just knit chat. So, and I really like podcasts with two people, and I really enjoyed doing it with her, and hopefully I'll be able to do it again with her soon. Other things, almost finished. I got my ears pierced. I did my seconds with my daughter. When was that? Yesterday, day before? Yeah, maybe 2 days ago. And sorry about that, just dog coming out of the room. And I had pierced it, you probably can't see, I had pierced it myself when I was with a needle, like pushed it through when I was about 14, and had 2 in one ear for a while, and then I haven't had one in there for about 20 years. And it was probably, because I did it myself, a little bit too close and a little bit too low. So this one's a little bit supposedly spaced in the right spot, and they've got to stay in there for 12 weeks before I change them over. And yeah, I was very brave. So I went with my daughter Alex, and she got her own piercing. She's pierced all the way up here. She's got a septum pierced. She's gorgeous. She's just such a beautiful girl. I mean, both my daughters are gorgeous. Alex is the one who likes all the piercings. So she went with me and, not physically held my hand, but was there for moral support. But I'm sure mine were a lot easier than her piercings. So that was a couple of days ago. And last thing is my dad. So he should be definitely getting better. He should be able to go home from hospital early next week. Tuesday is Anzac Day here, which is a public holiday, and it's remembrance for all of the armed forces, people who've served our country to keep us safe. So we have, and that's an important day where it's probably one of the public holidays where almost all shops are shut, especially in the morning. I think at 1 o'clock they can open, so that people have time to remember the people who've given their lives or suffered as a result of serving for our country. So the Tuesday, in relation to my dad, it means he will definitely not go home on Tuesday because it would be a low staff day. So he'll either go home on back to his aged care facility on Monday or Wednesday. I'm a bit nervous about what that means for him. He's not walking and doesn't seem to want to walk, and that's a hard, doesn't want to see the physio. So he'll definitely be going back with higher needs than he left. He's been in hospital 3 weeks now, and that's a hard thing. I was there when the physio came, and he was getting quite upset and didn't want to even try and stand or anything. And that's for me to be able to just go, this is his choice, this is not, I can encourage, but I have to let him make his own mind up as to what kind of help he wants to, and what he wants to try. So, but I'm a little bit worried about how he'll be when he goes back, just mental health and everything, not being able to even stand or walk or, do. When he left, he was walking himself, showering himself, all of that sort of stuff. So it'll be quite a change when he goes back. So, and I'm going back to school on Monday, staff day, and then back to work. So, yeah. Anyway, it's the holidays have gone pretty quickly. I've got a lot of knitting done. Spending time at the hospital, and it's been restful is probably not the right word. It takes a lot of emotional energy, you know, going to the hospital and being with my dad, even though I want to be there, it's really been, I haven't been up for much else. Like normally I would have done some sewing, I might have tried a few new recipes. I haven't even felt up to like just cooking normal meals. So yeah, it's just a lot of processing, you know, and I think it's really important to honor that in yourself, to not push yourself, to just like, I need some rest now. And yes, I could, you know, go out and tackle those weeds, or, you know, high pressure spray something, or do, you know, just, or try new recipes and do this and that. I'm like, actually at the moment, what I need to do is just rest and knit and spend time with the kids or, you know, family. So yeah, so that's been these school holidays. Yeah, anyway, I won't ramble on anymore. It's turning out to be another long one. So yeah, thanks if you stayed to the end. Thanks so much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you again next week. Maybe midweek I might pop a tutorial up. That's what I try to do. This longer episode once a week, and then maybe a tutorial of something, you know, in the middle of the week. All right, so yeah, hope you're having a good week, and I'll be back next week. Thanks, bye.